All right, perfect. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Um, by way of introduction, my name is Evan Lay. I'm a specialist here on the MLC Publisher Services team, and I'll let Jared introduce himself.
Jared Jones, likewise a specialist here on the Publisher Services team.
Thanks, Jared. So, perfect. So this webinar is going to be a great way to dive into any questions or anything you have about the MLC, how you should best utilize it. Before we jump into your questions, though, we do have a brief slide deck to go through with some basic information. Maybe we'll catch your question in there. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. While I share my screen, I do want to point out that we have a bunch of different webinars as well. So if you attend this webinar and you can't get enough, or if maybe you find yourself in another bucket, feel free to check our website, or in the chat, we can provide a link to any upcoming webinars that you can attend. So I'm going to share my screen. Jared, are you able to see the slide deck?
Yes, sir. All good.
Perfect. All right, let's jump in here. So before we jump into some background of the MLC, I do want to point out that we are on social media on all of your favorite platforms. Would encourage you to find us on whichever is your favorite and engage with some of the stuff we put on. There's a lot of fun stuff we put on Instagram, as well as I think that the YouTube content is really great for people that are trying to navigate the portal. We have a lot of really helpful walkthroughs and tutorials, as well as previously recorded webinars. So you can dive through those and see if there's helpful information for you there. Cool. So we are going to jump into some background information about the MLC and what we do and do not do, since there's really going to be a good foundation for us to build off of here. So first off, the MLC, we establish and maintain a public database of musical works, ownership, and information. So that means completely public to anybody, regardless of if you're a member or not. You can access that on our website. We also administer a new blanket license covering mechanical rights available to eligible digital audio services operating in the US. So those services include your Spotify's, your Amazon's, your Apple's, all of them. All those majors are going to be covered under this blanket license, as well as many that you may not have heard of. And there's a full list of those streaming services covered on our website. The MLC also receives and matches sound recording usage reporting data from those digital audio services with the MLC's musical works ownership data. So what that means is that every month, those services provide us with the sound recording data and the usage corresponding with each of those recordings. We then match that information to the information that's listed in our database, and we pay out the corresponding royalties per the next point, where we collect and distribute U.S. audio digital mechanical royalties to publishers, administrators, CMOs, and self-administered songwriters. This is a very particular type of royalty that is only collected and distributed by the MLC. So it is very crucial to make sure your works are registered with the database, so you're getting the whole pie when you're getting your music streamed on those services. So those are the basics of what the MLC does do, but it's equally as important to understand what the MLC does not do. So I'm going to pass it over to Jared to take over those bullet points.
Indeed, and with these few bullets here, I would like everyone to think about, since the MLC does not do the things I'm about to discuss, think about who does. I think that's always important, that we determine, okay, here's what a company does and doesn't do. Always fill in those blanks in terms of, okay, who does this? And this is research that you'll want to do. So number one, the MLC we do not administer performance rights for musical works or collect performance royalties. Okay, so the job of like an ASCAP or BMI or CSAC here in the US, the MLC does not collect those royalties. Other organizations do that. So do your research there. The MLC does not administer digital performance rights for sound recordings or collect digital performance royalties. That's one thing that I've heard in past webinars, and to understand in terms of that, the MLC is handling the composition side, nothing to do with payout on the sound recording side. That's important. Number three, we do not administer mechanical rights or collect mechanical royalties for physical products. Indeed, physical products still exist. Vinyl's still out there, CDs are still out there, tapes are still coming back. Love that, but we don't collect mechanicals for those. MLC doesn't do that. So again, kind of keep in mind, well, who does that? Who would I research? How do I go about ensuring you're collecting those as well? That would be outside of the MLC. Four, administer any licenses or collect any royalties related to the use of musical works in audio-visual products. So again, audio-visual, anything sync-wise with the audio is music videos and things like that, the MLC does not collect on. Sync-related music and television and film and all, the MLC does not collect on that. Okay, so there's just a couple examples. Again, try to fill in the blank. Hey, who does? Keep that in your mind as well. So you're packing yourself there, knowing that the MLC does not. And the fifth one, MLC does not administer licenses or collect royalties for the use of musical works outside the United States, US only. Right, so I always used to use this example that, hey, if I'm sitting in Greece or New Zealand, saw somebody from New Zealand or Sweden, if I'm sitting there and I play something on Spotify or Apple Music, that royalty is not coming through the MLC. So again, determine and think about and research, hey, what royalty is generated outside and who do you collect that? Things to keep in mind, okay? So I wanted to make sure I shared that. So importantly enough, in terms of what we don't collect or don't administer, we don't replace your PROs. We don't replace any relationships that you already have existing already. We don't replace those relationships. So ensure that when you're getting paid and who you're getting paid from, know where it's coming from, why you're getting paid that, how is it generated, and all that. So the MLC does not replace PROs. We do not replace sound exchange. So organizations still have their what they do for you. So always make sure you're understanding that and relearning that, because we know the business changes constantly, right? So always kind of stay on top of that. Hey, who am I getting paid from, for what, why is this from where? And so long as you stay there, you'll definitely be good to go.
Perfect. Great. Thanks so much, Jared. So now that we have a primer for what the MLC does and does not do, I think we can jump into questions here. So as we enter the Q&A, I do want to encourage y'all to please use the specific Q&A section of the Zoom chat. We will not be checking the actual chat box, so we don't want anything to get overlooked. So please ensure you're using the Q&A. So without further ado, we can jump right into those. Give a second for some questions to come in, and maybe Jared, we just did such a great job. We covered all the questions.
I mean, we could definitely come on the frequently asked questions, some questions that we get. One thing I would definitely encourage is, just like people on the webinar here, we can never get enough. When we say reach out to us via email, call us, we mean it. We're all nerds about this stuff. We enjoy talking about this. We enjoy sharing information. And right back to the social media slide I kind of mentioned there, if you're on those platforms, any one of those, share. We want everyone to know about the MLC and to get royalties that they need. So as a reminder, just make sure any questions that are coming in, if you're putting anything in the chat, make sure you put all questions in the Q&A so we can see them, because that's what we're monitoring currently. And we got a question there right now.
Cool. All right, so Nat is asking, do you collect for social media usage, for example, Meta? No, so that would fall into the category that Jared described with the audio-visual component. So thinking about anytime there is something to look at that corresponds with the song, that's going to fall outside of the MLC. So those are your YouTube videos, those are like your Instagram Reels, those are looking bigger, those are your movie placements. Anything like that is going to fall outside of the MLC scope of work.
I got the next one here. And I try my best to get names, but I don't want to butcher any names. I want to say it's Sepelu. I hope I didn't get it wrong. But you got a question there. Does Music Reports collect different royalties? The MLC is the only company in the U.S. that can collect U.S. digital audio mechanical royalties. So that's one. I would say with Music Reports, especially if you have a relationship with them already, you want to reach out and understand, okay, what royalty are you collecting for me and from where? We want to figure out that relationship. I know there are some people who may be administered via a Music Reports or via some places. So just understand the relationship in terms of what royalties they do collect. But always keep in mind that the MLC is the only CMO, the only collection place that can collect these royalties and distribute them. There are publishers, there are administrators like yourselves that sign up with the MLC to collect those royalties and distribute, but that those specific to whatever deals you guys have. So yeah, so any questions like that with Music Reports, any other companies, if you have a relationship there, definitely reach out. And you know what, even if you don't, I always encourage that as well. I encourage you to reach out to any company, say, hey, what royalties do you collect as XYZ role? You know, how can I benefit, or is there a benefit for me to sign up with your organization, and what type of royalties do you collect? So that's what I'm encouraged there. I hope I answered it.
Jed is asking, what is the MLC admin fee? Well, Jed, got some good news for you. The MLC is 100% free to join. And as just to, for clarity's sake, the MLC is not does not act as an administrator. We are maintaining the database and maintaining all of the royalties registered that are due under the works registered in the database, but the MLC does not act as an administrator. Just a little bit of a semantic thing there, but wanted to make sure it's very clear. On top of it being completely free to join the MLC does not take any cut of the royalties. The MLC is a nonprofit, and so all of the royalties that come from the streaming services go straight to you as a publisher or a self-administered songwriter. So great news for any musical rights owners out there.
All right, and I got this next one. I love these questions, but they're so good. I love these detailed ones as well. I told you I'm a nerd. Okay, so David asks, I use CD Baby to post my streaming content, Spotify, as well as others. I have been using their standard $10 service, not their pro service, because I'm cheap, post many singles. You know, but I have more than half my streamers outside the US. That's very important. After attending a couple of your webinars, I think I've come to the conclusion that I need to use CD Baby's professional service because I can't manage a dozen MLC type organizations around the world. Do you concur? Oh, I love this question. And though we can't give any advice, I would definitely say this, as I mentioned before, if you know that you're utilizing a service and you understand what that service is collecting for you, right? If you're using a service like a CD Baby Pro, what are they collecting for you? My understanding is they do collect with CD Baby Pro service. If you use them as an administrator or use any administrator or publisher, they would be collecting your royalties from the MLC, again, in US, like we mentioned before. So as you kind of mentioned, and I'd like every publisher, administrator, and songwriter to kind of do this exercise. Well, I know the MLC's told me that they're only collecting US. So indeed, if I have things outside of the US, is it more beneficial for me to use a service that collects outside? So those are questions that you do have to answer yourself. Again, we can't say one way or the other. I would say that's a great question though. And it sounds like you have the right thoughts in terms of, hey, here's how I want to make my decision. So you're on the right track of making a decision. Again, though we can't give advice or anything, you're asking the right question. So I hope that helps. I hope that helps.
Thanks, Jared. All right. Dylan is asking about the newly announced dispute and overclaim dashboard. Dylan, you must have been on the annual member meeting yesterday. So this is a new addition that's going to be coming to the portal in the coming months. Unfortunately, beyond what was said in that meeting, we can't disclose too much more. Essentially, though, what I can say is it's going to be rolling out in parts. Right now, a lot of the conflicts process is completely done via emails and sending attachments, corresponding through whatever email you're using. The goal of the Overclaims platform is to consolidate more of that into a single place and make it easier for publishers to discuss past documentation and maintain their shares, and hopefully have it all be in the portal in the long term. So when you see it rolling out in the coming months, there's going to be the first iteration of it, and then as time passes along and as we continue to get feedback about how it works, more and more things will come. So at this point, keep an eye out. It's very exciting. You know, we're all very interested to see how it will go and excited to hear feedback from publishers utilizing it.
Perfect. All right. Cartier, I hope I got the name right. I like getting names right. Hi, can you speak on the royalty payout schedule? Thank you in advance. Well, thank you for the question. Indeed, we can. I love giving examples. I love examples. So right now we're in October. and I hope I get this right, Evan, correct me if I'm wrong. Right now we're in October, so whatever music is being used in October, as an example, this music usage is going to be paid out at a certain point in time. Okay, so right now, as an example, every month we take a snapshot of here's the data in the MLC database. So that next one's going to be in November. November's snapshot kind of picture, here's what's in the MLC database, is going to look back. Okay, here's everything, all the data from October, right? All the music plays. You got a big song out right now and it's getting a lot of plays in October. That usage is going to be paid out in January 2024. So you follow that. We have a royalty schedule, and thank you. The royalty cycle is on the website, but you'll see that. So you'll follow that. Right now, music usage in October, we paid out January. What does that mean for music usage in November? We paid out in February. And I think I always get the number wrong, but it's 70. The payment happens within 75 days, right? At the 75-day mark after the close of that music usage month. Okay, so that's why the music usage October, pay out in January, November, pay out in February, and so on and so forth. But definitely take a picture when you guys see that timeline or that calendar on the website. Take a screenshot of it or favorite it, and always go back to that as a reminder. So hope I can answer the question, Ricardo.
Pete is asking, in a previous session, I learned that it's important to keep my profile on the portal up to date. Specifically, what is it that needs to be updated? So Pete, when it comes to updating your portal, really the number one thing you're going to want to make sure you keep up to date is your banking and tax information. So we're all, at the end of the day, we're here to get paid, right? So we want to know who are we paying, and then making sure we have relevant tax information whenever that time of year comes up. So those are the things you're going to want to prioritize. Aside from that, making sure that your publisher name is up to date, any contact information is up to date, anything like that. In terms of your specific portal account, if you're getting a notification or that you need to update some information, I would encourage you to reach out to our support team to take a look specifically into your account. Our support team is great. They're available 5 days a week via phone, chat, and email, so they can help you out in whatever method is most convenient for you.
Okay, next one we got from Pepper. Pepper Alvin, thank you for your question. And I love these questions. Would I need to find the German version of the MLC to collect royalties from them if my artists get music streamed there frequently? Love this question because you're thinking the absolute right way. Absolutely. Any song that you administer or publish and you know it's getting royalties generated from a source that you're not already connected with, because like I mentioned, MLC, US, okay. So if you know Germany or France or South Africa, right? Anywhere else where you know the streams, indeed, you want to look that up and look, hey, who collects the royalties? What royalties are generated? That's the first question. What royalties are generated from my play on Spotify in Germany or in France and what have you? And when you're doing that research and you find out, oh, okay, this company collects or this organization collects, how do I then become affiliated with that company? Do I need to? Things like that. So yes, you're asking the right questions, and absolutely. I always think in that vein, if a play is happening somewhere, I have to understand what royalties is that play generating for what side, composition or sound recording, what have you, and where does that come from? So yes, you're asking the right question, and that's any country. As you're looking through statements or data or anything like that, if you do that, or when you do that with pretty much each stream, and you start connecting the dots, you say, oh, okay, yeah, wow, there's many organizations that collect this and that, and how you affiliate and all that. Again, you'll have to research and find out, but you're absolutely on the right track there.
All right, so we've got a question asking, as a publisher with many different works and different artists, do you separate by songs and how much from that specific song made? So Derek, the way that you set up your catalog is going to be completely unique to you and your own specific situation. Some publishers may find it easiest to have all their writers and their publishers in one catalog. Others may prefer to keep them separate. That's going to be dependent on your specific situation. In terms of the breakdown of the songs and the royalties generated from those works, regardless of how you have it broken down, all of that is going to be specifically listed in your royalty statements. There are two different versions of your statements where there's the work summary statement, and then there is the royalty detail version of your statement. Work summary is going to give you a broad overview of all of the royalties generated from a work, whereas the royalty detail statement is really going to dig into the nitty-gritty. And you can see not only how much was derived from this work on Spotify, but what type of subscription did the person who listened to it have on Spotify? How many usages are on there? Things like that. So all of that really encourage you to review your statement and see that breakdown of your works and the royalties.
Nice, that's fantastic. All right, we got another question from Sapelu. And again, I hope I'm getting your name right. What is the purpose and how can I access this? Great question. I'm going to get the acronym wrong, so I'm not even going to try it. But I can tell you the purpose. The purpose, right now, someone mentioned CD Baby earlier, right? We understand that there's different digital distributors that allows labels or songwriters, artists to get their music out to the DSPs, to Spotify and Apple Music. Again, CD Baby, TuneCore, there's many of them. Many of them offer a publishing administration service where not only will they go ahead and get your music up, they'll say, hey, we can administer your music as well. So there's services that one can sign up for. Not all of them do this, but some. And so, but because the aggregators, or like the CD Babies and TuneCore, because they distribute music, DERP is a program or a way that they have access to the, and again, I get some of this wrong, but the information in terms of, well, royalties that need to be collected. Like I said, not everybody has their distributor acting as their administrator as well, right? So that means, let's just use an example. I love examples. Let's say I put a song out with a CD Baby, but I'm not signed up for the administration service, right? What does that mean? Well, if the song's getting played, I have mechanical royalties generated. I either again, with the MLC, if I have the relationship out there, I can get my royalties directly. But if I don't, right, if I have no idea, if I'm not on the webinars, if I'm not on the social media, and I have no idea about the MLC, this is a way that these distributors can access information and get that information out to their customers, pretty much, the artists that they're serving already on the distribution side. How exactly they're going about doing that, I'm not 100% sure, but the DERP program is pretty much allowing these distributors to connect with the MLC to understand, hey, here's what's there, and to get that information out to the artists and labels using their services. So I hope that helps. If you have an additional question on that, definitely throw it in there, but I hope I covered it as best I could.
Great, thank you, Jared. Allison is asking, can you suggest an international company or name some to research? So Allison, there are lots and lots of different societies around the world, because the PROs or CMOs in the different countries are very specific to particular regions. I will say that within the musical royalties landscape link that our team provided earlier in the chat, there is a section under the Performing Rights Organization subheader that has a link where you can search for the CMOs and PROs by country. It's important to note that the US handles royalties slightly differently than other countries. Maybe in other countries, they have a singular CMO that collects not only performance royalties, but also mechanicals. So whenever you're doing this research by country, it's important to not only figure out what the company is for that particular country, but also what rights are covered by that company. So we can throw that link back in the chat for you guys to reference. And again, that's under the Performing Rights Organization subheader.
All right, Pete, with the next question here. Pete, for international collection, isn't the preferred method through the Harry Fox agency? Pete, I love how you framed your question. And you'll kind of hear a similar vein from Evan and I with this. Preferred is in the eye, right, of the one using it, you know? So in terms of right now, and there's probably some who I know we saw the poll, right? And we saw some who are familiar with the MLC and familiar. There's some who might be familiar with the Harry Fox agency and things of that nature. So what would I say? Like anything else that I've been saying, dig in, research it. What do they collect? Is it beneficial? Things like that. I hate to sound like a broken record. I love your question. But kind of in even how you frame it, for international collection, hey, isn't the preferred method? There's an understanding that, again, we mentioned before, as publishers and administrators, there are some publishers and administrators that have relationships in various countries, right? So preferred is definitely depending upon, it starts with you, it really does. It starts with you and your purpose in terms of, okay, here's what I'm looking to do with my organization, and then finding those points to connect. So kind of answered your question. I hope I answered your question in the best way I could. But yeah, in terms of preferred, my encouragement is always to give a call, shoot an email over. Hey, what royalties do you collect? Here's my position. Here's what my company does. How can we benefit from connecting with the agency? Things like that. So I just really want to encourage you and everybody else on this call and watching after to do the same. To do the same.
Thanks, Jared. So we got another question from Nat. Can a parent company operate and collect under different publisher trading names at the MLC? And if so, do those trading names need different IPI numbers? And does the parent company's details show everywhere on the MLC database? So again, this is going to be pretty specific to your situation where, like I mentioned earlier, there are different options for how to set up your catalogs with the MLC. The distinction between a user and a member is pretty important here. You as an individual are a user, and you can have access to or create any number of members. So one route you could take would be to set up multiple different member accounts for your different publishing companies. If you want them all to point up to one top publisher account, we could help you set up what's called a hierarchy, where there is a structure in which the sub publishers will point up to that top hierarchy there. So depending on the situation, that may be a route we would want to go. That information can be shown in the MLC database, again, dependent on how you register your works. You may notice on some works in the MLC database, there is a publisher section and then a little drop down it's the administrator and then a drop down that shows the original publisher. So that's one way it can show up, but may be different depending on your specific situation. I would encourage you to reach out to our support team to help work out your specific situation and figure out the best way to move forward.
Good deal, good deal. Okay, we got Karen next. Karen, hi, Karen. Could you clarify the different types of digital licenses administered by the MLC versus HSA? HSA, sure, HFA, forgive me. Indeed, I can start there in terms of the MLC. Back to our initial slide, if you were there for the MLC administers a blanket license to DSPs to cover U.S. digital audio mechanical royalties. That's U.S. digital audio mechanical royalties. Things that would come through, like, again, sitting in Nashville now, if I play something on Spotify, it'll generate a audio mechanical royalty to come to the MLC and be paid out. If Apple Music, Tidal, things like that. We have, and if we put it there, the DSP is perfect. I was just about to mention that. We have a list of DSPs that we pay out on. Anything outside of that, and this is for HFA or anywhere else, I'm going to go back and say the same thing. We have to encourage you to give them a shout, give them a call, shoot them an email, because again, the MLC, we can clarify kind of what we do, the U.S. digital audio mechanical royalty payout, versus again what we don't do, which kind of went over, and anything outside of that in terms of versus HFA or any other company. Again, the encouragement is to reach out and get it from the horse's mouth, get it direct from, hey, what do you guys cover? What do you guys collect? So I'd encourage you to do that.
Great, thanks, Jared. So we got two questions back to back about the Phonorecord 3 period for the period of 2018 to 2022. So for those of you who may not know, there was an appeal made by certain DSPs regarding the Phonorecord 3 royalty rates, which are updated every 5 years by the Copyright Royalty Board, or CRB. Those rates have finally come down and been finalized. The DSPs now have a period of 6 months to provide the corresponding usage data and royalty data for those periods. They have until February 9th, 2024 to provide that information. Basically, everybody can kind of trickle in, but they have up until that date to provide it. As we receive this information, we're going to work on ingesting it and paying out and prioritizing what we can. However, we can only pay out, after we have had the opportunity to review that information. So tentatively, the earliest you're probably going to see some of these royalties coming through are going to be by next spring, because that gives ample time for the DSPs to provide the recording, to provide the information, for us to analyze and connect that information to what's in our database, and then make those corresponding payments. So what this means for you, though, and this is good news, is we're going to be paying the difference for the phonorecord 3 period. Previously, because those rates were being appealed, we were paying the rates at the phonorecord 2 royalty rate. However, since now the rates have been finalized, we're going to be paying the difference, which is positive for anybody who owns songs. We're going to be paying out the difference between what was paid previously and what was paid, what should have been paid. So you'll just basically see more money coming into your account.
I'll mute myself and take this next one. I think, there we go. Marvin got the next question. Hey, Marvin, are royalty payments retroactive, or is there something I need to do to recover payments prior to my MLC membership? Fantastic question, Marvin. The short answer is yes. The short answer is yes, payments are retroactive. I love examples. If you're not an MLC member yet, let's say you join MLC as a member, and the most important thing is, of course, start claiming your songs. If you start claiming songs, if there are songs that you, let's say, have a publishing share in, and those songs are already registered, and you become a member, you would want to first claim your shares, claim your song. Or let's say the songs don't exist yet in the database, we don't have registrations for them, you can do new registrations for that. But all that to say, once the claims happen in the system or you have new registrations, that's our first kind of option to see, okay, well, here's this song. Remember, we've been getting data. Keep in mind, the MLC started paying out, or started January 2021. So royalties from that time and forward covered under the blanket license. Okay, so there's 2 buckets here. There's what's been covered under the royalties under the blanket license, 2021 and forward. And there's historically unmatched royalties, which is prior to 2021. So keep in mind that, yes, once you get your information in the system, that's the MLC's first opportunity to say, okay, here's Marvin's publishing. Okay, well, look, here's all the recording information or the royalty information that we got relating to this song. Okay, who owns publishing shares in this song? Oh, Marvin Publishing. How much? Oh, 50%. Okay, and then that calculation looks at the royalties due to whoever owns that 50%, right, from 2021, 2022, and through. So yes, retroactive. And then, of course, the historically unmatched payouts that have already happened, plus what Evan mentioned is still forthcoming, 2018 through 2022. So all that to say, yes, the most important thing that so long as you don't already have a publishing relationship or administration relationship with another party, if you need to become an MLC, do so and register your songs appropriately. I'll mention one other thing, if I don't see a question about it. The tools in the MLC system, so cool in the portal. I mentioned the claiming tool, how you can claim songs, but also the matching tool. So there's occasions where, again, you'll have a song registered or a registered song, and you can also utilize the matching tool as a member to say, oh, is this song, I need to see if there's any historically unmatched, royalties for, my song. You can use the matching tool. I can always say, when you first put that song in, that's our first opportunity to look. So you don't want to go in right away and do everything all at once, because we may have the data there just to match to your song once you register it. Okay. But yeah, in short, all that to say is yes, there's retroactive payments. The best thing to do is come remember and make sure you get your catalog in there. I tend to get long-winded. I'm sorry.
No, you're very thorough, Jared. We appreciate it. Jasmine is asking, if there's a dispute or overclaim with a company, are there any documents required for them to prove their publisher claim, as well as the smaller companies? Are there any examples of this, and has this happened in the past? Yes, Jasmine, this happens all the time. As many of us are probably familiar, the music industry is not known for being the cleanest in terms of data. So there's many disagreements that happen in terms of publisher shares, any duplicates that get registered with conflicting shares. Things like this happen all the time. The MLC does actually have a particular ownership dispute policy that requires documentation for publishers to provide to maintain their claims. And we also enforce deadlines to make sure that publishers are participating in this conversation and providing necessary documentation. If documentation is not received by these deadlines, the MLC retains the right to remove shares. However, once documentation is provided and all publishers have demonstrated a reasonable claim to the works, the MLC does not mediate any conflicts in that way. We do not review documentation and say this this contract takes priority over another contract. Essentially, it reaches a certain point where the publishers do need to discuss and find a resolution. However, in the meantime, the MLC does place royalties on hold. So that gives everyone time to discuss and also kind of lights a fire under everyone to find a resolution, because otherwise no one's going to get paid. So our full dispute policy is available on the website, which our team has very kindly provided in the chat for you to review.
All right, got another one from Sapelu. If claims to a work are incorrect, how can we amend accurate shares owned by rights holders? Again, great question. Very similar to, in line with what Evan was just kind of stating regarding our kind of conflicts and dispute policy is kind of what happens when those things aren't worked out. So I'll kind of start there, depending upon where you see it. So if you know, let's say, you know the collaborators or the publishers, and you see somebody needs to reduce their shares in order for you to claim, if that can be worked out up front, oh, okay, go right ahead and do that. If you get to a point where, again, you're an MLC member and you're stating, I'm trying to claim 50% of this work, this happens all the time, but it's already 100% claimed. Happens all the time, right? So you would want to reach out to our support team, kind of let them know that, hey guys, here's my MLC member. This song I'm trying to claim I own 50% of, but it's already claimed 100% by XYZ, help, right? And so, yes, the process kind of starts where we send out what's called a claim confirmation. We reach out to the other party. Something, again, that we encourage you to do. If you can do that beforehand, you can definitely come through us, and we just get both parties on the same page. Sometimes the other party says, oh, yep, you know what, that was our mistake. We're going to reduce to 50%, and then you're allowed to claim. Sometimes nope, we own 100% of this, and then it moves into that conflicts and dispute process that Evan was just talking about. So definitely a way to do it. If you're seeing that, and if you're an MLC member, please go ahead and reach out to our support team with that information, and we'll take it from there.
Perfect. And another question, asking about why some payments from DSPs are more than others. For example, Amazon paying more than Spotify per 1 million streams. So Nat, great question. Thank you for sending that in. The royalty rates from streaming services differ from service to service, as well as from subscription type to subscription type. So Amazon is going to pay at a different rate than Spotify, is going to pay at a different rate than Apple. And those rates are calculated based on particular formulas that are pretty complicated. It's basically like the total royalty pool divided by the number of usages, but only if that's larger than this rate. I honestly, all of them are slightly different, and so I don't have them off the top of my head, but they are, for your convenience, available within the MLC portal. There's going to be a little tab on the left-hand side of your portal account that shows the rates. And from there, you can go in and you can look at each streaming service's calculations, how they reached the number that they did, as well as how they reached that number for each particular subscription type. So again, Spotify's individual subscription may pay at a different rate than their family plan. And these rates do change from time to time. So I would encourage you, if you're looking at the rates and wondering why there's changes, to check those rate sheets and see what may have changed there.
All right. Getting down to the last few here. So again, if you have more questions, anyone, please, any questions at all, please throw them in the Q&A if you still have them. Allison Zaplanco, to get the royalties besides registering the song on the MLC, do I have to also go into the match option as well, utilize the matching tool? Great question. I would say you can that, but starting out, when you register the song, remember, when you register the song, that's our first opportunity to take any data that we have and match it to your song. So it's generally what I tell people, and you'll have to utilize how you want to utilize the tool, is that once you register it, if you give it that, okay, that month or 2 months and you're not seeing anything, okay, go in and utilize the matching tool. But if you go in day one and register your songs, let's say, and it takes, once you register your songs, it takes anywhere from about, if the timeline is still correct, about a week. Within that same week, sometimes it could take a little longer, about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, if there's other things that have to be reviewed. But once that song is showing in your catalog, remember, that's the first time it can be captured by that snapshot that I was talking about earlier. We take a snapshot every month. So oftentimes one will register songs, have their catalog in the system, okay, and then wait for the first royalty statement or two to show up and see what has already been able to be matched right now that your music is there. Aside from that, though, yes, we do have the matching tool, which you can utilize. Again, you can utilize it right when your song's in the catalog, or you can wait another period or two and say, okay, let me go in there and see if there's anything unmatched. So again, you don't have to use a matching tool right away, but it is a tool that you can utilize to allow you to match. Because remember, we have a matching team. We have matches are constantly happening. And when you register your song, that's our first opportunity to match what we haven't been able to match to your song. So I would say allow that process to happen. But then, yes, utilize the matching tool. If you're seeing, well, I know I got recordings and I'm not seeing it on my statement. Let me go ahead and utilize the matching tool and see if I need to match. So you can absolutely do that as well. Okay.
Awesome. We got another question asking about delivering metadata. So can metadata be delivered via CWR files, and does the MLC accept these files? So for those of you who may not be familiar, CWR stands for Common Works Registration. This is another type of way to deliver data to the MLC, especially for those of you who have large catalogs and need to do a lot of things in bulk. It's a very good way to deliver your data. The MLC does accept this data, and this is a good opportunity to touch on our relationship with the Harry Fox Agency, or HFA. HFA is acting as our primary technology vendor, and they basically, the data between the HFA database and the MLC database mirrors one another. So if you as a publisher are currently delivering data to the HFA via CWR, you can continue to deliver your data via CWR to HFA, and any of those updates will automatically be reflected into the MLC database. The same is true in the opposite direction. So you can kind of pick whichever site you prefer to register through and then just pick that one. It's important, though, to make sure you're only picking one, because if you're registering with HFA and with the MLC, that can create duplicates. So just to circle back to your question, yes, CWR is a good way to register your works. And if you're already doing so with HFA CSEC, continue to do so. And if you need help setting up, please feel free to reach out to our support team.
All right, got another with Sapelu who's coming with the good questions. This is all great. Everyone's asking great questions. This is fantastic. Sapelu, are royalties only paid out when a work has been claimed 100%, where you would have to wait for the other rights holders to claim the remainder share of the work? Sapelu, I'm gonna answer this in the best way I can. Ooh, if that was the case, my friend, if that was the case, there would be a lot of people waiting. One of my biggest pet peeves, and this is hopefully an encouragement to all of you, is seeing works that are not 100% claimed. Right, some 30%, 32%. I'm like, oh, people, and this is why it's so important to share, right? Thankfully, no. A work does not have to be showing at 100% claimed in order for payout to happen. If you have a work and you claim your 50% and you're waiting for your co-writer to claim their 50%, and we see it on the statements, no, your 50% will be being paid out to you. Thankfully. Whew. So many songs on our database, again, why it was so important to share, that are not yet fully claimed. All right, so, but yes, to answer your question, nope, it's not only paid out when it's at 100%, it's paid out. If you go in there and you have 15% of a work and you claim that 15%, your payout will begin happening. You're still encouraged to lean on your collaborators. Hey guys, hey MLC, lean on your collaborators and all that to ensure that everybody is appropriately claiming theirs, because again, that's one of our biggest motivators, not the biggest motivator. Get people paid what they rightfully do.
Tell them, Jared, that's always important, making sure everyone's registering their data. Kind of segueing into our next question, asking how should we inform you when we're taking over a collection of works that are already in the MLC database, especially if it's a large catalog. So Jared actually here is the man for this job. He handles our catalog transfers process. You can send a letter of direction, an LOD, over to us, outlining the rights granted, the new claimant, which should be you, and then we really prefer to include a schedule of works whenever you can. The MLC is in the process of revamping our catalog transfers process. So it's all going to be housed within the MLC. And so I would recommend reaching out first to our support team with any relevant information and your LODs to get that process started.
Thanks, Evan. And yes, I'm very excited about that upcoming revamp process. Much more news coming on that soon. All right, last question that we have here for now. We still have a few minutes, so if you got any other questions, don't be shy, throw them in there. Allison says, I have a new artist we are working with, but all his works, it's not organized as best it could. It's not registered in any of the important digital companies. Can we register him? Organize him and claim all his royalties since we are working and managing all his work. Allison, well, I got a question for you. It all depends. It all depends on your deal. It all depends on your deal with them. One thing Evan mentioned before, I kind of allude to it as we get into it in here, is that indeed there are people, there are artists, there are writers who sign deals, and they'll try to come a member and will say, hey, your stuff is already claimed. And they'll go back and say, oh, okay, understanding the deal. So I would definitely say first start there. If you have the right, if in your agreement with this artist, you have the right to administer their catalog, then it would be appropriate for you as an administrator, to register and claim his work. So yeah, it all starts with the deal. That's for anybody on here as well. I've had the question going off of that question, hey, we got other writers, can we claim appropriately? It all depends on the deal. So definitely start there with that artist, determine, what rights you have. And then sometimes, and I know managers do this as well, and lawyers, I heard the other day on the meeting that a lot of people just share the information. If I don't have rights or a place doesn't have rights to administer, yet they can say, hey, well, I know where you need to go. Go ahead and call the MLC, get in touch with the MLC. You can definitely still point them in the right direction. But yeah, depending upon and according to your deal with said artist and the other artists, that's all dependent upon what you can or cannot do for them.
All right, we got a question from Jasmine asking, if a work is mistakenly claimed with the wrong percentage, does that publisher have to return royalty payments that were collected in months past? So, Jasmine, the MLC does not issue adjustments for these types of situations. Whenever a publisher is overclaiming, those royalties that have already been paid out do need to be worked out in between the two publishers that are involved with the work. But this does allow me to touch on that the MLC does have some situations where we do issue adjustments. Those are specifically related to situations related to matching. So whenever there's a mismatch or incorrect masters on the MLC's end, for example, there's a recording that's completely not related to your work, but you get paid for that. The MLC will remove that recording from your work, and we will issue adjustments for any royalties that were paid for that recording. However, in a situation like a publisher coming in claiming 75% when they should have only claimed 50%, if they've been paid for a few months, unfortunately, you do have to go and discuss directly with that publisher to find a solution for any of those previously paid royalties. Oh man, Jared, I think we're coming out to the end here. I don't know if we've got a little bit more time for some questions, if anything is still anything still comes to mind to anyone. Give a
Yeah,
few
please
more.
don't be shy. I gotta say it. Like it's very exciting to see the questions about it really is. And I hope you can tell we really enjoy this. So
Yeah, lots of great questions today. It's been really nice to see where everyone's coming from.
Pete, I got one for Pete. Oh, no, I got one to Pelu. What we got here? Is it possible? Is it possible to add metadata to releases already delivered so we can claim royalties? So Pelu, I'm not 100% sure. I understand your question. I could, unless some of you guys, I could try to answer it in terms of as best as. In terms of, let me start. In terms of the information that you put in the MLC, I can say this: with songs that you register with the MLC, you do have the opportunity to go in and edit that work to include additional information. So you can add like things for an alternative title or I don't know. Can we add? I forget if we can still add recordings in, but now we utilize the matching tool. But once you register your song, yes, you can go in and add some information that may have not previously been there. I think the ISWC, things like that. It's important. There is some information that you cannot update once you submit a work registration, but that's okay. Anything that you're not able to do in the MLC portal that you need to have updated on your work, you can just reach out to our support team and say, hey, I'm trying to update this, like a work title, for example. We say it all the time. Hey, I got to update my work title, my song title. It needs to be this instead. That's not something you can do right in the portal, but you can do that by reaching out to our support team. So, Spalo, I hope I answered that. If not, I think we in the chat earlier we put in where you can reach out for additional questions or any further clarification on that. Thank you for that.
We got a question from David asking about royalties outside of the US. So again, as Jared mentioned at the beginning, the MLC scope of work is specifically limited to the US. So David is asking about who pays mechanical royalties in Europe? Is it one organization, one country? The answer is that there are multiple different organizations throughout Europe that collect these types of royalties. I would encourage you to visit our musical landscape page on our website, which does have a link to a site that allows you to search by country for which organizations collect royalties. And again, as I mentioned earlier, really making sure that you understand not only the organization that's collecting the royalties, but also the types of royalties that they collect. Because in some countries, one organization may act as both a CMO for mechanical royalties as well as performance royalties. So having that full picture is really important. Dave is also asking about CD Baby and collecting mechanical royalties around the world. There are administrators like CD Baby or like a Song Trust who offer these administration services. It's really going to be down to your specific situation where if you find that it makes sense for you to engage with an administrator to administer these rights. We can't advise on what would be best for your specific situation, but I would just encourage you to really make sure you understand the agreement and what rights are collected, because we do see it sometimes where a publisher is engaged in an administration agreement with a CD Baby, and then they go ahead and register their works with the MLC as well. If you have an administrator, they're going to be taking over control of your catalog in the MLC database, and registering your own works in the database can create conflicts and prevent payment. So making sure you understand the scope of the agreement is really crucial there. So I hope that helps answer the question. And we're coming up to the top of the hour here, so we're going to wrap up. But thank you all so much for your questions. You really kept us on our toes, and it's been a pleasure answering your questions for you. Yeah, so thank you all. Please feel free to join an upcoming webinar, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Take care.